Hey everyone, this is Eden.
And this is Chris.
Thanks for coming back to our podcast,
Earthly Integrations.
Earthly Integrations. Thank you. I blinked. Um, Today we're going to be talking about non-attachment and separation. These are really big key topics in yoga, in my yoga practice, and we can even look at our astrology as well whenever we're talking about non attachment and separation and see where it all connects. It all connects.
It's so funny. It always is very synchronistic, as we always say. And of course, as we always say, we're not we're not picking these topics. I think they're really inspired, and they are very much in alignment with the astrology. In fact, we just had the nodal axis shift from Libra and Aries, which is learning self and
Mm,
in learning relationship and self. It's that axis. Heal self to heal yourself in relationships and show up in relationships. And now it's turning to a Pisces Virgo axis, and that's very much what that speaks to. So we'll talk about that and integrate that into the conversation as well.
amazing. Well, whenever I hear of non attachment, this reminds me of my foundational learnings in yoga of the yamas. Oh,
Hmm?
the yamas and the niyamas. And part of the yamas is apragara. Hopefully, I said that right. Sanskrit is not my first language, uh, which means non greediness. And in my learnings, there was a story of this man that bought a teapot, and one day, a while away from him buying it, his granddaughter was cleaning and broke the teapot. And he came into the living room and he said, I bought it so that it could break because that's exactly what literally everything in our life does is it breaks down. It will go away eventually. And this is where separation and fear of separation or the illusion of separation comes into play because there's a lot of fear around being separated from the people that you love, being separated from the things that you love, or even this planet in and of itself. So, whenever we look at our non attachment lessons, then we are less fearful of our separation.
Absolutely. I love, and I'm going to speak to this using the keyword illusion. I'm going to highlight that. And of course, I'm going to bring the astrology into it, which illusion is ruled by the planet Neptune, and that rules the sign of Pisces. So we're coming out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And so, where have we been disempowered by a false sense of reality that has disempowered us because it's an illusion. And it also, it's funny because Pisces also rules religion, and that has been very disempowering largely. That's why I don't love organized religion, um, because it does disempower us. It has us putting our beliefs into something outside of ourselves. Um, I don't know why it's staticky. I'm sorry.
Hold on one second.
Sorry, we had to pause for a minute. So, out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius speaks to how we've been, our ideas in terms of spirituality and our inner world. And we've been kind of cut off from it. Um, so, yeah, that is funny that you said the word illusion, because that really does fit into that.
The other day I heard this comment and it said, um, religion separates and love brings us back together. I think there are a lot of examples where we can see that religion has separated families and separated communities and separated even your feelings from yourself and shrouded yourself in shame and fear and things like this. Although I will say that there are a lot of religions that have guided people towards
Yeah.
love and gatherings.
Yeah. If
And
you take the inherent truth of all religions,
hmm
they really do speak to that. I mean, Christianity is based on the teachings of Christ, which the teachings are all in alignment with love and the higher vibrations. It's that people aren't embodying these things. They're saying, well, I go to church every Sunday, and I'm a Christian. I declare myself a Christian, so I take the body of Christ and it absolves me, or
mm,
whatever it is their beliefs are. It's somehow they don't walk their walk, or they're just not conscious, because they have been taught that if you just do these things and then give your power away, there's so many things that actually are haven't been implemented in religions that are disempowering energetically, just as an energy worker, directions that they have, the altars facing, and you know, the sacred scents, the oils that they use, and just like all the things. There's a lot of this information that's coming out that you can kind of find, but yeah, you're right. That now the wealth in that, and the beauty that is there, because it's always offered. It's not, we're not cut off from some of the advantages of it, would be the community and the connection. And I always found a very sacred connection to the Christ consciousness, even as a child. So
hmm
that I was grateful for, and I connected to that through being exposed through church. So yeah,
that is nice.
yeah,
My experience with religion is separation,
yeah,
complete separation, because they had this mentality of we are better than everybody else.
yeah.
It is our God. It's nobody else's God. It's our God. And you have to dress a certain way. You have to act a certain way. You can't, we weren't allowed to eat a lot of things and celebrate any holidays or even your birthday or anything like that. And no, it wasn't Jehovah's Witness. But as a child, being separated from your peers every holiday is just gut wrenching. And the amount of trauma that it induces. We have a spirit here
Maybe.
because that was a strange one. Um, yeah, the amount of trauma that it induces is so profound that we haven't studied children that have been continuously separated from their peers. Um, whenever there's like these holiday celebrations of community, and you're not a part of it, you know, it. I've gone through a lot of trauma, but that was one of the top traumas that I really had to look at and handle and I did this by sharing holidays with my children, making sure that we went to community events, making sure we did all of the arts and crafts, and it was profound to heal myself through my children. I'm not saying that people should do that, but there are so many lessons and healings whenever you raise your own child. I don't think that anybody is ever 100% ready to have a child and they're just not going to learn anything from being a parent. I think that having a child is just another life lesson that you so deserve. And if you don't want to have that lesson, totally cool. Totally cool.
Yeah, I do believe we definitely learn through our children, for sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to speak to I actually dated a Jehovah's Witness um, guy, and I absolutely could see the trauma that created, and had a lot of compassion for that. And it is so sad that these religions can very, very much damage and traumatize people. It always keeps doing that. It really does. We are a nation that is, I feel like there's a lot of lifting up, the suppression of what we have not been allowed to feel, largely, um, up to this point. And societally, we are integrating our emotional, you know, we're becoming aware. So where the conscious part of this is healing is bringing consciousness to our emotional well-being. What do we need, and how have these ideas affected our systems and impeded on the structure of our thoughts, and what are our attachments to those ideas, and where can we let go of any attachments, because are they based on our innate truth? Is that what our inner guidance systems are telling us? It's really important to go internal right now, navigate. And that actually is what that North Node in Pisces is doing. Um, I listened to it. Molly McCord is my favorite. And I did take notes, and some of the stuff is going to be from her, not directly quoted, but like interpreted from her. And some of it are words that she uses. So definitely check her video out. I don't like get money to endorse her or anything like that, but I love her so much. Um, but it is, what do you need to release and let go? In religion, in the unseen, in the unconscious. So these are Pisces themes, to ask what's real and what's true for us. Why do I have an attachment to this idea? Why do I have an attachment to the way we do this in life? Why is this structure set up? This is something that I can very, very intimately understand, because I've been born into this rejecting the structures of real. I'm like, I knew as a child, because I felt it embodied. This is not, this isn't conducive to the human well-being. It is not conducive to being able to be a whole person, incarnate, in this body. The systems don't care about your body. They don't care about your nervous system. They don't care about what your needs are. They don't care about your natural rhythms. As a female, I was just listening to this video, as a female person in a male-dominated structure of reality, because our structures are very money, we are set up to make money, to generate. We're little, we go to our school system structure. Everything's very, very male structured. It is not conducive to our well-being. I work in an industry that, like I said, helps people try to, you do too, you know, regulate their nervous systems on a daily basis, because we have a system of dysregulated people.
Hmm.
And mostly they're not aware. I'm still learning about, even the other day I was learning about dysregulation, anxiety. Not being anxious is a trigger for anxiety, because it was very, it's very introspective. It can become very, but we need to become introspective and really understand why we think the way we do and why we do the things the way we do. Let go of them when they don't serve us anymore. And that's what's real and important right now.
We were actually having this conversation the other day about how the systems are just horrendous. And I told her, I told Chris,
Hmm.
that I've, I've never had, this isn't because I'm spoiled, I've never had a 9 to 5 job. And saying that out loud, it feels as if, like, yes, I've been honored so profoundly that I've never had a 9 to 5 job. I've never had to keep that down. Um, this is mostly because I was a stay-at-home mom for so long. And now being a massage therapist and a yoga therapist, I kind of put in like 4 to 5 hours a day, 4 to 5 days out of the week, whenever I want. And it took me so long to just be okay with that, to feel like this is enough, because we are programmed
Right.
to be doers. And if we're not working, if we're not going to school, if we're not doing something to
Prove
make
your
money,
worth.
yeah, which could be money,
Right.
then you are nothing. You are worthless. And that's
Right.
exactly how I felt.
We deem money as being worthy. So if you're not producing money, I felt this intimately when I was
Hmm.
married. Like, I was trying to prove my worth, prove my worth, prove my worth by doing, doing, doing. There was no amount that could that could match a dollar amount. So there was an unworthiness there. It was an unspoken thing. It wasn't enough. You got to go get that
Yeah.
job. You got to go do the thing, or else you're not doing enough. And there's never enough, never enough. So there is a perpetuation of that through our structures and what we are taught. That didn't come from just an idea that in our relationship that idea is systemic.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
So I've had the blessing of always being the outsider looking into all of these people that I love and know and want to hang out with and want to have relationships with that are overtaken by these corporations, by these 9 to 5 jobs, by money,
Yeah.
essentially. And they will always come back to me and say, "Sorry, we can't hang out. I need to go to work. I have to work tomorrow. I have to start looking for a new job. I have to, and their priority number one is work and money. And it's never love and relationships. It
Yeah.
feels like it's never. I know it's not never, but yeah.
Right. So, yeah, where are your priorities? Do you need all the things? Do you need to consume constantly? Do we, right? So, this is where I want to kind of take a step back. That's where I've always felt like, let's reevaluate. It's nice to have nice stuff and to live
Mhm.
in the system where we have, you know, chances are likely, and we're going to be actually moving in this direction more and more with technology and the advancement. Everybody go look up the Venus Project. Jack Fresco developed a society that is in advancement. So what does an evolved society? This is what we were talking
Oh,
about. What is
yeah.
an evolved? So this is one of our topics. What we were going to do. What does an evolved society look like in an evolved society, right? Because this we had several conversations this past week. One of them I had with a couple different people, and it was about speaking truth, being able to speak your truth. And here's the thing, people are afraid to speak their truth because everyone's ego has such attachments to ideas about
Mm.
things. And to serve the ego and to be validated, we need to have attachments to the. Here's what I've learned. If I understand, I can have the capability of understanding somebody else's idea, and that being a truth, and also simultaneously my truth existing at the same time. And that's okay. We need to have an idea that your truth can be true and my truth can exist, and both truths can exist together simultaneously and be different. That's
Mhm.
where we get these ideas that no, I need you to believe me and you need to feel the same way I do. So that let that shit go. Let the
Have you
attachment to
ever
those ideas go.
had the experience of somebody pulling out their phone and Googling the topic that you happen to be talking about to prove themselves right?
Listen, I just had a conversation with my youngest daughter last night, and she was frustrated at something, and she was venting about something, and I did this. I was like, well, you're right, but then this person was probably thinking this, and this is the point of view. And she paused a second, she thought about it, she goes, huh, I guess I'm not mad about that anymore. It was perfect. I was like, that's beautiful. If we could all just do that, right?
Change your perspective and just
Let it go.
where are your priorities in each argument? Is it to embolden your ego or is it to have a fuller relationship with the person you're speaking to?
Exactly. And this is where the balance between the ego mind, right, and
Mm.
the higher mind. So this is actually where we need the inner guidance system is so true. We do need to um so here's the thing, what I wrote down earlier. Inner guidance system is so important. So how do you connect and receive messages from your higher self? It's going to be so important to really carve out that space and learn how to trust yourself and any spiritual gifts you have. Pisces is our spirituality, and it's that's where we find our magic, and it is where we have been largely disempowered, right? So our religions have kind of shrouded the truth that we don't need anything outside of ourselves in order to navigate.
Mm.
Somebody recently said, and I don't remember, it was somebody advertising like a health coaching thing or something, but he was like, the higher mind and the ego mind can be looked at as your higher mind is literally looking at it from a vantage point of higher up, and you're down in the caverns. Think about like the crevices of your brain or something. Like your ego mind is literally in the brain crevices, and you can't see because you're trying to navigate this labyrinth. Your higher mind's going, no, go left, go right, but it's doing it through symbols and feelings, not, and sometimes words if your intuition's really
To be honest, I always see it as a video game. Like we are
good.
in the video game right now, and your higher mind would be the person playing it, right? They can see all of the things around you
That's
while
exactly
you're
what's happening.
in it.
That's why we love video games so much.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
We're just avatars.
It's so meta.
We really are, though. We, like I said in the last one, I don't mean that we're nothing, but we are empty space, and
Absolutely.
we don't, right? That if we have attachments to our beingness, it's really just that's the false reality. That's the illusion.
Yes, the
That's
amount of matter that is in this body is so tiny. We're mostly air, is what she's trying to say.
right,
Yeah,
right.
especially you.
Yeah, I really am.
She was just telling us how much air she has in her head, and I'm like, "Are you an airhead? Is that what's happening?"
I am.
Yes.
Totally. I'm an Aquarius Mercury and I have a Gemini moon. I am an airhead for sure. And you know what? I don't have an attachment to that. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means I go quick,
Yeah, but
you
you're
know?
super creative. Like there's so many positive aspects to having so much air as well. Like I'm a fire, like I feel as if you are roaring this fire and making it more passionate and
Aw.
more fun.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, I do have a fire Venus, so I do have
Oh,
that aspect of both.
true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you probably feel that too. But and my lesson is water. So the more I actually learn about the transits and how they happen upon us collectively and how we experience them collectively, and then I look at my own chart and I'm like, wow, such a beautiful like the way it transits through and the lessons and just knowing how the energies are meant to be experienced and knowing the different expressions of them and how I'm experiencing them. And I was like, wow, that is just so beautiful. How this is a divine, really a divine blueprint. If you can understand it, become predictive with it, that's what's the most beautiful. And that's actually we've been disempowered too, because even though astrology has been made a pseudoscience, it's actually one of the oldest sciences that had been practiced. It is going to start becoming more acknowledged. You cannot dismiss it once you start to learn about it. You can't dismiss it. It's like saying, and I joke around with people. I'm like, that's like saying trigonometry. It's not like I don't believe in that. Like I don't understand trigonometry really, but I know it's real because it's math.
Right,
Like this is
right.
kind of one of those things. It's like, well, people have largely misunderstood it, but it is going to be something that we are going to be learning about more collectively going forward too.
Right. It's like saying I don't believe in air because I can't see it,
Right, right.
Sorry.
But our psychic senses are going to become stronger, and we're being asked to grow into them more. And this will help us navigate in a new way, being, more inner led rather than outer world, like reactive focused. We're going to be
Proactive,
yeah, and we're going to
intentional.
learn that we can, that's how we manifest more, and we're here, when you play that video game, you get to choose. There's things that you have choices over that we don't realize that we had choices over, but
Hmm.
we do.
Yeah, sometimes it feels as if there are no choices, and that can be very fearful based. That could feel like you're out of control, and in those moments, uh, definitely try to center yourself, ground to the ground, right? Um, I do feel as if the fear of separation is something that is so innate in us. It is our instinct to feel as if we will die if we are separated from the people that we love. And this is absolutely true back in the day. Whenever we were babies, we would die
Right.
if we were separated. And if we were in a tribe, we would die if we were separated. And now our whole society is based off of being separated from each other. The epidemic of loneliness is so profound that suicides have gone through the roof. Not only suicides, but homelessness. We are seeing record homelessness today. The most amount of people are homeless today in this moment,
Yeah.
not back in the Depression era. They continue to tell us that um, the what the system is doing fine. What system is that? Economic system?
Do they? Are
Yeah,
they?
they continue to tell us that our financial system is just fine. No, we're not going into a
Because
depression.
what I hear from my end is people are working 2 and 3 jobs to get by. That's not fine.
No, but their whole thing is, well, stockholders are getting their money.
Mm.
The rich people are getting their money. They're making uh massive profits, record profits at this
Mhm.
point,
Mhm.
while we are the ones carrying the loads
Right.
and having to do two, three jobs to continue to just get a loaf of bread,
Yeah.
or have a roof over our head.
I mean,
It's,
it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. People's, salaries are not going up that much, and it is. It's like we're fighting for the smaller piece of the pies, and
hmm
that's not okay. And it's
yeah.
not the way we are meant to be. Again, most corporations cannot acclimate the environment to be conducive to what your needs are as a
hmm
human individual. They can't. I've been there recently and it wasn't fun.
Right. There's nobody ever coming around and saying, "Oh, have you had enough time with your children today? Maybe you should go home early." Your work-life balance is a little off. And they do say that, but they mean it on the other way, like, well,
Mhm.
you haven't worked enough, so your life balance is off.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't know. You don't have much time, and time has been a feat,
Yeah.
but that is another thing. So, that, and I really do feel like, as we go forward into this year, we're going to see more people being asked, and with, like I said, the rise of AI and technology,
Oh,
it
yeah.
really is going to be freeing up the labor force. It's going to be freeing up, we're going to have to reconsider what do we actually need to put our energy towards? Do we need to be doing this? And if we could be, what could we be doing to be of service? There's that Virgo axis. How are we showing up to be of service to people? Um, where does that fill our life purpose?
Finding that community, and if that means through your religion, I totally do that.
Mhm.
Go towards your community no matter where it is. We did just make a podcast. It was posted last week on Spotify, not just yet on YouTube,
Yeah.
but it's literally called Community, right? And we just go over how to get your community and the frustrations of being in a community and things like that. Um, we really need to lean towards each other right now rather than away. We've been going away from each other for so long that we have no empathy or sympathy for each other anymore.
It's so true. We're like literally, quite literally, restricted to these little boxes. We're cut
hmm
off from nature. We're cut off from, and that is who we are. The fabric of reality that is true is we are not separate, and that we are not separate, and death isn't real. And that's another thing. We grieve so harsh. Like in an evolved society, we would know that it is, and the ancients knew it. The older cultures, the civilizations, they would know that it's not done. You're not done when you leave this place. This is
hmm
this is the and we are still connected to that while we are, quote, here, because here isn't really a place.
I think we're taking small steps towards that higher vibrational society with the celebration of life. I love this
Mm-hmm.
idea,
Yeah,
but I do feel as if death isn't very prevalent in our world today. I mean, we don't live in a place where we see dead bodies on the side of the street or
that's
anything like
true.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So the lessons that are learned through death aren't as prevalent in our society right now. Um, it, I do hate to say that to really embrace death the way that uh, I to bring it into honor, it's gonna take a lot more death. That's that it sucks to say that, but that's just my fear of separation. There it go.
Well, and to be honest with you, from a spiritual vantage point, l- things shift profoundly when people leave the planet en masse.
Yeah. Oh.
Profound shifts of consciousness happen, profound acts of love happen, profound things happen. And as devastating as that is, I think that's by design as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like anything devastating, it creates an environment for a hero to step up, for a healer, for a lot of people to step into their true form,
Yeah.
to support each other. And you can see that going on right now in the state of California with the
Hmm.
fires. Like Mexico, they put their ego aside and they let their firefighters come into California and help with fighting the fires.
Yeah.
So I think that where there's devastation and disaster, it does help to bring people to their true form and into love and compassion.
Yeah. And when things do burn down, quite literally, it's to rebuild new things. So um, it is as devastating, like you said, as it is. It's what's being let go of, what's being
Mm.
left in the past to regrow. I don't know that I know what that lesson is yet in terms of what you're speaking to, but collectively, yeah.
Well, anytime there's a hurricane here, I will tell you that is literally the only time I talk to my neighbors. We go door to door and we make sure everybody's
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
We have water and food that we share with each other, and I think that's the lesson. People coming together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So, where do you feel like you make the most difference, right?
Mm.
What do you have to offer your community? What do you have to put in service to other? What is your purpose? That's the North Node Virgo. Um, without, putting worry or anxiety, not without feeding worry or anxiety, because that'd be low road Virgo. Um, there's a lot of ways to grow, to expand. There's not wrong ways to grow or expand, but what are the heart-centered ways to grow or expand? What did you come here to do? Maybe find, grow into that purpose of, um, where you're headed, where we're headed societally. Where can we clear the old to set space for new?
Mm.
Um, w-
Sometimes letting go of things, you have to let go of things that you absolutely love, and you have to let go of things that you saw a future with and you wanted to grow together. But sometimes like pruning the hedge is so necessary for new growth to come in to form uh, the hedge into the perfect square, not a square, circle, or to have a healthy plant in general, a healthy life. You have to not be afraid of that separation, of cutting out things that, or people, or work that could do
that
harm.
no longer serve
That
your
no,
highest. Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
need to know what your needs are. I know that boundary setting, upsets people. It has been my experience that when I put boundaries up, they don't like it and they have opinions and ideas about that based on but that's theirs to own, and that's been a large part of my lesson is allowing people to own their own,
Mm.
yeah, lessons and
Yeah, because if you continue to let them step over into your boundaries and you continue to just be like, hey, that was a boundary, let's try again, but please don't do it again, um, it kind of feels like you're enabling that behavior and you're just letting it happen over and over again. You're putting yourself in that same vibrational emotion of feeling used and abused and all of these things. And um, sometimes just a separation can be the most beneficial thing.
Hmm.
And the illusion of separation, you're not really separated. It is just a space that you've created so you can breathe.
I think that is where people get so lost into the depths of emotion, is
Mhm.
that feeling of separation that is what keeps people in that pattern sometimes of that negative cycle,
Yeah.
of attachment, of whatever the unhealthy attachment is, that fear of I'm not going to have that person show up in that way. Um, I challenge people to like put themselves in that scary, uncomfortable situation, just even if it's your consciousness, and imagine what that looks like and what's the worst that can happen, and would you die? Would you die?
Hmm.
Um, and then also the idea of separation is not real. And with that in mind, how can you meet your own needs and how can you show up for yourself if you are put in that situation? And maybe that's where the healing is, you know? If you can show up for your wounded, like we were saying, feminine, or if you can show up and heal that or heal the wounded masculine in yourself, then it's not so scary. Then you've kind of shed light into those places, those darker places, and shown yourself, hey, guess what? I can show up for myself in these ways, and there's something so beautiful and fulfilling about that. And now I know how to do it. And not only can I do it for myself, but I can do that for other people too, because I've given myself that grace, I mean, that's why I started learning astrology in the first place. Like, why do I make, why it's introspective in order to understand and hold space, like I always talk about, for other people, and understand the different ways that they can show up. So the most beautiful part about astrology is that I can look at the different expressions, I like to say the wounded expressions and the healed expressions of the signs. People say high road, low road. What are the various expressions? How are you displaying them? And what is the invitation? Where's the invitation to look at it from the higher perspective or the more healed expression of that energy? And so find out where your Virgo and your Pisces are in your chart, what house they're in, um, what's the lessons there, and how are these things going to show up for you, and what are the healed and what are the negative expressions of those signs? I mean, positive, negative, if you so choose those words, but they do imply, well, I guess there's implications for all of the adjectives, but I don't like those as much as I would say, the healed expression, because it's like I said, it's less judgmental about how you've been using it. Because usually when you're operating from those lower places, it's because of a wound, it's a lack of awareness. And if somebody's willing to look at it, that's great. But if they're not, you know, if somebody's not willing to see something, then you can't work with them, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. So it's really interesting because I find that you have found yourself through astrology, while I have found myself through yoga.
Right?
So there's so many different avenues that you can take for your own self-study or to go inward and see your actions and reactions without judgment. That is key, to step aside and view yourself without judgment and see, I really don't like it when my coffee is too hot, or I really don't like it, makes me feel really anxious whenever there's a sink full of dishes and things like that. Whenever you notice that and then you say, why does that make me feel anxious? Why don't I like my coffee really hot? Oh, because I spilt it on myself whenever I was younger and my mom screamed at me and it was a whole emotional tornado and it happened more than once and things like that. You can really understand your inner child and how literally like everything comes from your programming in childhood, all of those reactions. And instead of being reactive, we can see that and be like, oh, I'm just going to let my coffee cool down. Or I'm just going to make sure I put each dish into the dishwasher as I go along my day. So there will never be a sink full of dishes. Proactive. once you are proactive, then those things like anxiety and fear just kind of melt away, and you're left to see the joy and bliss in every second of every day.
Right. Yeah. Going into the unconscious patterns to expose why you do those things and realize how they've been disrupting your life because of the unconscious, So when, like I said, like you said, bringing the unconscious to the conscious to expose, to get a bigger picture.
hmm
Yeah, to
And
get
there's
a bigger
many
picture.
avenues like astrology or yoga, tai chi, surfing, skateboarding. Like I I I'm a physical person, so I lean towards active things. But if you're an intellectual person, you might read self-help books, which I also do that, or meditation, or there's so many different avenues to take. But today is the day to take it. Today is the day to self study and notice the feelings as they come up and handle them with care.
Right. And like I always say, if you're wondering where to start, it's always start where there's discomfort, what makes you uncomfortable, or where there's conflict in your life. Like, where's your conflict? And then internal, where this is what I always do, really. I'm not just like pointing the finger outward here. When I'm in conflict with someone, I always go, what am I supposed to learn about myself here? Why is this showing up in my outer world? And what is it here to teach me? So, and how can I do better? And do I need to own something? Do I need to apologize for something? Do I need to own something? And do I need to understand it from a different perspective?
Like,
Hmm.
what's my part in this and why? Why? They say if you ask yourself why 7 times, you really get to the root of the issue or the thing that you're asking why about. And I've done that, and it does work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And people do hold up mirrors. And when we reject, like, this isn't me, this is an outer world, this is, well, then what is it there to teach you about yourself? Why is it triggering you? Is there something that you have an attachment to that you need to let go of?
Mm-hmm. Literally everything, every challenge, every blissful moment has been a teaching moment in my life. And I wouldn't give it up for the world. I am so happy, even for the darkest days of my life, because I've come through and I am the me I am today.
We grow through the most through the hardest experiences,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I mean, I always use childbirth as like, my example of this, but it really is. I mean, it's ugly, it's painful, it's gross. You know what I mean? Like it can be all those things, but then at the end you have this beautiful the birth of this beautiful new thing,
Mm-hmm.
that is sacred. So, I wanted to. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about in terms of what we were just speaking to before I change the subject? Not change the subject, but add to it, I suppose.
um, just that maybe the act of non-attachment is to set your ego aside in the moment, just like we were talking about, and ask about the lesson. What am I learning here today? And then let it go. So,
Yeah, to shift your perspective. I
hmm
mean, and that is to sum up, to come out of the illusion, to get more clear versions of self and our healing. Um, so that we can close out something old in order to bring in, to welcome in something new or a new
hmm
way of being, a new experience.
And
So,
I'm not saying that if you're going through like grief, like somebody has died in your life, to just shut down all those feelings and just be like, oh, non-attachment. I mean, work through your grief. Love your grief. Your grief is literally the amount of love that you had for that person, and it uh, just know
yeah,
your grief.
it's your a grief is a gift. Your grief is
hmm
a gift. Your attachment is to the idea of an old way, because with with grief with death in particular, you're learning a new way of living without. It's a new normal. It's a new way of living with
Hmm.
in a whole new environment without that person in your physical existence. The gift is that you're having an invitation there to communicate with them in a whole different way. And if you do it through the heart, you'd be able to still do that. It's just that people get so clouded with emotion that they can't connect or feel into it. But the people who can, even will tell you they have a better relationship with that person, um, even though they're not incarnate, than they did when they were incarnate.
Hmm.
So everything is perspective, and that is truly that's a shift of perspective as well.
NDEs have always helped me through any type of grief that I've been going through. And I just love the shift of perspective of what happens when you actually die. And that is, I read that book by the woman that taught you,
Dolores Cannon.
Dolores Cannon. Yes, yes, because she actually reaches in not just to past lives, but in between the lives and what goes on in that death stage, you know.
Yeah, if you're interested, so this is why it infuriates me that science hasn't declared reincarnation to be real. There has been so many, just an insane amount of proof uh, that we are on a cyclical experience. Dr. Brian Weiss, Dr. Michael Newton, he's got the Journey of Souls book. That's what started my that's what kind of opened me up to because the experiences are just so similar. They validate the truth, and then of course, the little kids who are coming into the planet knowing certain things and saying things they would never know, they couldn't know.
Hmm.
So these are true things, and are becoming aware of this truth. It also gives us extra grace into knowing that we are infinite beings. We are having an experience here, a dimensional experience, a third dimensional experience, a lower vibrational experience, but we are also being asked to open up to the other parts of our dimensional selves, the way that we exist outside of these bodies. So that higher mind, connecting to that higher mind and being able to understand and integrate more of the information around us because our brains are limiting us and our consciousness has been limited to a large extent for lots of reasons. But yeah, but we are coming out of that. So reintegration, like I say, an
Hmm.
expansion of consciousness.
Yes, going into that high vibrational society, shooting for that.
Yeah, ultimately what we're trying to do, and I think, and I think that we are here for this purpose. I believe that this is a large reason that I became incarnate in this expression of this vessel, is to help lead consciousness into a higher expression of itself individually and do it myself through my own healing. And then because I'm such a big mouth, to shout it from the rooftop or on a podcast or anybody who will listen, really,